Okay, Professor. So I have on your screen a template to facilitate our discussion. So this is the cash book bank column, right? And this is our bank statement. As I showed you, the columns are date, details or particulars, and then you have the the debit column, credit column, and then the balance. So let's look at something. So let me change certain things here. If our cash book has a debit balance, so let's assume, let me clean these ones. Okay. I want you to appreciate these things very well. That's why I'm doing all these gymnastics. I could have just given you the format and we roll with it, but you need to understand the format, right? That's why I'm taking the pain to do some of the things I'm doing here. Okay. So we are looking at a scenario where our cash book has a debit balance, okay? A debit balance, okay, on the cash book corresponding to a credit balance on the bank statement. And as I told you, this means that the balance is favorable or is a positive one, right? It's favorable or positive. And we expect our cash book to have a favorable or positive balance. Okay, good. So let me put in figures here. Let's say we have on 1st February, we have 500 Ghana cedis in our account. What it means is that on our bank statement, okay, as I have automatically made the formulas here, you see that automatically our bank balance would also be what? 500 Ghana cedis positive, right? Good. Now let's assume that on 5th February, right? 5th February, we received a check of 120 cedis from Araba. So professors, if we are recording this in our cash book, this is what is going to happen. We are receiving a check from Araba. So we debit our cash book February 5th. And we put the name Araba and put the amount there, 120, right? The corresponding entry will go to Araba's account, right? But we are not preparing Araba's account. The focus is on the cash. Now, professors, look at something. Immediately you do that, you see your cash book is now having a balance of what? 600. This check will go to the bank, right? So that the bank will also acknowledge that, okay, 5th or February 5th, Araba has brought a check and should be added or credited to the account 120. Okay. And that will make the two balances agree. Now my question is, if the check is sent to the bank and the bank has not done the credits in respect of Araba, then what is happening? It means that we have what we call uncredited checks. Okay, and in this scenario, it is the check from Araba, which is 120 cedis. So you realize that because this check has not been credited by the bank, our cash book is showing 620. The bank statement is showing how much? 500. And the reason is because some checks have not been credited by the bank. So that's what we meant by uncredited checks are checks the bank has not credited. So what it means that we have received the check and debited our cash book, but the bank has not what? Credited. And because of that, you see the difference in the balance. So that is the uncredited checks, right? Good. Let's look at the scenario where this time we are making payment. So we made payment to Kwame. Let me change the figure to say 300. Okay. Let me reconcile the balances so that we know how much. So look at something here. We had a balance of 500. We are making payment to Kwame 300, which means our balance will come to 200. It is expected that Kwame will take the check to the bank so that the bank would also record February 5th. My account holder is making payment to Kwame. And I told you, if we are making payment, what do? We debit the account. So you see that if Kwame sends the check to the bank will debit and our balance will come to 200, equaling the balance we have on our cash book. Now, if Kwame has not presented the check for the bank to pay, what we refer to as what? Unpresented check. Then you will see that our cash book would have a balance of 200, while the bank statement will have what? 500. Simply because Kwame has not presented the bank the check for the bank to make the payment. Okay. So Kwame, how much? 300. Now let me keep Arabes transaction in there. So now that you appreciate these two scenarios, I'm putting all the figures in there, okay, so that we can make some sense out of it. So professors, look at something here. We have now appreciated how it works when we're talking of uncredited checks and how it works when we are talking about unpresented checks. Now let's look at how we can reconcile the two balances. Okay. So look at the first scenario, and let me raise the Kwame's transaction so that when we finish, we'll look at the hand. So the first scenario, which is the uncredited check, look at it. Because of this uncredited check, we have our cash book balance as 620 and our bank statement balance as what? 500. My question is, what will you do to make sure that these two balances agree? And that's why I want my professors to explore their thinking capacities. Okay. You have a balance on your bank statement, which is how much? 500. And you have a balance on your cash book, which is 620, simply because you have received a check from Araba, but the bank has not credited that to your account. So you have 500 against what? 620. Now my question is, how would you get these two balances to be equal? And I need my professors to share their thoughts. The clue I can give you is that for you to do the reconciliation, you can start with any of the balances. So you can decide to use the balance on the cash book, or you can decide to use the balance on the bank statement. The reconciliation you are going to do is either you are going to add something or less something. So now let me hear my professors. Who is going to try first? Or I should mention him. Okay, Adam. I think Adam. This one I'll call you first.
Okay, so I think you need to add, I guess, to the bank statement.
Okay, thank you. That is very awesome. Thank you. So according to Adam, if we decide to start with the balance on the bank statement, we have to add the 120. So you see, when we add the 120 to the 500, it gets to what? 620, equaling that on the cash book. So it means if we also begin with the balance on the cash book, then we have to less the 120. And this is the rationale, or this is the reasoning behind the format for the reconciliation statement. So let me do it. Bank reconciliation statement. As at, it has the ending as at, like just like the balance sheet. So professors, the point I'm making here is that if you are doing your reconciliation, you can start. So let me say this is style 1. One of the styles you can use. The style 1 is that you decide to begin with your balance per the bank statement. Let me go to style 2. Style 2. Style 2, you may decide to begin with your balance per the cash book. And we have just realized that if you start with the balance per the bank statement, as shown in this scenario I have created here, okay, which is 500, right? Then what do you do to make sure that it's equal to the balance on the cash book? You are going to add the 120, and that 120 is uncredited check. Uncredited what? Check of 120. And when you add it to it, you get 620. However, if you choose the style 2, which is you beginning with your balance on the cash book 620, then this time you have to do what? Less the uncredited check. Okay. Let's look at the unpresented check and see whether we have to add or less depending on the balance we are starting with. So let me go back to so I brought in February 5th. So now Araba can go off because we have sorted out the check. Good. So this time we paid Kwame, but Kwame has not gone to the bank for payment. So what is happening? Our cash book balance is 200. Our bank statement is what? 500. We want to reconcile the two. We can use this balance 500 on the bank statement or use the balance 200 on the cash book. If we use that on the cash book, then you all agree with me that we have to add the unpresented check. Okay, 300 to it. Then it will be equal to the 500 on the bank statement. But if we choose to use that of the bank statement, then we have to less the unpresented check. Okay. So let me go and add to the format. So if you start with the balance per the bank statement, you less unpresented. But if you begin with the balance per the cash book, you add unpresented check. And I hope my professors appreciate this. So it's on this basis that we have the format of the bank reconciliation statement as follows. And let me show you to my professors so they can appreciate what we have done. So this is it. So you see, when you begin with the balance as per the cash book, you add on presented checks and then you less uncredited checks. But if you go for starting with the balance per the bank statement, okay, balance per the bank statement, you add uncredited checks and you less unpresented checks. Please, any question? If I have confused you, don't worry, ask me so that I can explain it more better. Now, for it to be more relatable, the point I'm making is that if your Momo balance is different from what you know in your head. Yes, Adam, are you saying something?
Yes, please. Can you go by
Okay, is it the format of the reconciliation statement? Oh, I think I can't hear him. He wants me to go over something. Okay, he wants the format. Okay, so professors, the point I just made is that if you want to do the reconciliation, you have the option of starting with either the balance on the cash book or the balance on the bank statement. Now, let me use the relatable experience, that's the Momo experience. If your Momo balance is 200, in your head or in your notebook, you have written that, oh, the money I have in my Momo is 200. Then you go and check your balance on your phone and it's 3,000. You see that you get surprised. So you have two balances here. 200 in your notebook, which in our case is the cash book, and on your phone, which is what MTN is showing you, 3,000 is the bank statement, right? Now you do the investigation and you realize that, oh, you paid somebody 2,800 Ghana cedis. So what it actually means is that, let me demonstrate that here. You had 3,000, okay, in your cash book, right? You had 3,000 cedis in your cash book, right? But you have paid Kwame 2,800. So in your head or in your notebook, you have 200 cedis. Now, you are expecting that when Kwame takes the money from your Momo account, your Momo account also shows a 200. But it happens that the cash out you did for Kwame, or maybe the transfer you did for Kwame, hasn't gone through. So it means that MTN has not acknowledged or deducted the money you are paying to Kwame. So you in your head, you know you have 200, but your mobile money will be showing, say, 3,000. So when you do the investigation, you realize that, oh, okay, the money you paid to Kwame, which is the 2,800, the bank or MTN has not deducted it. That is why your balance on your Momo statement is what, 3,000. And sometimes it can happen. You even did the transaction, but because of network, it didn't go through, but you thought it has gone through. So you have recorded that, oh, my 3,000 I have paid Kwame, so my balance is left to 200. You go and check and your Momo is 3,000. So when you do the investigation, the options you have is either to use this balance to reconcile or this balance to reconcile. Now, why do we even do the reconciliation? We do it so that we can follow up and get the bank to do the right thing. So the issue is, if we use the balance per the cash book, then you have to add back the 2,800 so that your cash book balance will also be, say, 3,000, equaling 3,000 on your bank statement. But if you use the balance per the bank statement, you have to less the 2,800. What are we talking about here? We are talking about unpresented check, right? A check that has not been presented to the bank for payment. So we are saying when you realize that, you can either start with the balance on your cash book or the balance on the bank statement. If you start with the balance on the bank statement, you are going to less unpresented check, and that is the star one here, right? If you start with the balance per the bank statement, you less unpresented check, and you add what? Uncredited checks. Okay. So you see, when we prepare the statement, what happens is that you write a letter to the bank telling the bank that, oh, you have not deducted the payment we made to Kwame. So the bank will then, okay, acknowledge and do the deduction, and the balances will now come to be equal. Okay. So the reconciliation is more or less like you doing a dirty work so that you can follow up for the bank to do the right thing. Okay. So Adam, I don't know if it's okay now.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions from professors? Okay. So professors, I don't know if you do it Babadier or root learning, but this is the concept behind the format for the reconciliation statement. And as I indicated to you, uncredited checks and unpresented checks, these are the causes that we reconcile on the reconciliation statement. The last one is the error made by the bank. Okay, I think I stated that somewhere. Yes. So let's visit again. Unpresented check, uncredited checks, and then errors made by the bank. These are the things we adjust on the reconciliation statement. Okay. So we've just demonstrated the first two. What is left is the error made by the bank. And trust me, the errors made by the bank come in two forms. It's either wrong debit or wrong credit. The bank debited the account wrongly or credited the account wrongly. Okay. So let's demonstrate that here for all of us to appreciate. So we have a fine case where our cash book balance is 3,000. Our bank statement balance is what? 3,000. Then we go to the bank, we find out that, oh, on February 15th, the bank wrongly debited our account. So if the bank debited our account, means they made some payment to AC 1,500. Okay. So we go to the bank and we saw that, oh, our balance is 1,500. I say, but what happened? We check the statement and we see that some payment has been made to AC. But we are not supposed to pay any money to AC. So that is a wrong debit that the bank has done. Okay. So we need to correct it. We need to do a reconciliation. Now here again, if we pick the balance on the bank statement, which is the 1,005, what do we do with this figure so that it is equal to 3,000? We will add it, right? We'll add it. But if we come and pick our balance in the cash and want to adjust it to get the 1,005, then we would have to do what? Less it. So depending on the style you choose, and as I've demonstrated here, if you go with the balance per the bank statement, then as you saw here, you have to add the wrong debit, right? You have to add the wrong debit. Okay. So you add the wrong debit. But if you choose the style 2, which is you beginning with your cash book balance, then as you all realize, you would have to less the wrong debit. So I hope that is also clear. Let's look at the case of wrong credits. So wrong credit also means that the bank has wrongly credited you, let's say 2,000. So we are going to the bank, we know that, oh, we have 3,000 in our account. We get to the bank and it's 5,000. So we ask ourselves, how is that possible? We check and we see that, oh, the bank has credited some monies from AC, but we are not expecting any money from AC. So this thing the bank has done is wrong. So here again, we can start with this balance per the bank statement. Adjust this so that we can get an amount equal to what we have in our cash book. In that case, what will you do? You will less the wrong credit. So if you start with the balance on the bank statement, you will less the wrong credit, right? So you less the wrong credit. So what it means is that if you start with the balance per the cash book, which is 3,000, and you want to get the 5,000, you would have to add the wrong credit. Okay, so you add the wrong credit. Now, I always tell my students, you can be smart about certain things. If you look at this thing, you see that the wrong debit is going with what? Uncredited checks. And the wrong credit is going with what? Unpresented checks. So if you can adjust these two things, it's a matter of relating them with a wrong debit or wrong credit. But I have demonstrated to you the reason why we add or less. Okay. Please, any question? So let me quickly recap what I've done today so that you don't get confused. What I have done today, professors, is to help you appreciate how we do a bank reconciliation statement. And for you to do a bank reconciliation statement, your focus is on the following three items: unpresented check, uncredited check, and then errors made by the bank, which I've stated that is either wrong debit or wrong credit. The bank wrongly debits you or wrongly credits you. Okay. Now with these three items, how do you do the adjustment? And I'm saying that you can start with the balance on the cash book or the balance per the bank statement. It depends on which style you choose, because that will determine whether you are supposed to add or less. And I think I have demonstrated that with the numerous examples that I cited doing the subtraction and additions on the face of the cash book and the bank statement for you to appreciate. Okay. But of course, in the meantime, you may want to do some babadie small. So I tell my students, you can choose one style because the other style is you turning the first style. So if you choose to start with the balance per the bank statement, you add uncredited checks. You less what? Unpresented checks. If you can remember that one, then the second style should not be difficult because you just do what? Take the opposite of the first style. Okay. Please, question time. Question time. Cyril, Adam, Ashley, Alexia, do you have questions for me? If there are no questions, then professors, I think I'll end here. I'll take a snapshot of the format and put it in the page for you to go over. But I really want you to understand why we were adding or lessen this unpresented check or credited check. Okay. Okay. Please, any reaction from any of you? Any question? I'll be glad to have a few questions. Okay, so as usual, my professors are saying they have no question, meaning they understand whatever we have discussed. I'm happy as a teacher to learn that my professors are very okay. Okay, in that case, let me ask one or two questions, and then I think we'll call it a day. So, my professors, if your bank statement shows a debit balance, what is the general term used to describe that? If your bank statement is showing a debit balance. Because I spoke about that during the class. Yes, who answered that for? Oh, I thought you get this thing simple. Professors, I'm waiting for an answer. Okay, maybe they want me to mention it.
The question again.
If your bank statement, so let me go back so that you can see what I'm referring to. If your bank statement, I mean this statement, shows a balance that is a debit balance, what name do we, what is the term used to describe that? If your bank statement is showing a debit balance. Or my professors, okay, so
Bank overdraft.
exactly, bank overdraft. Okay. So anytime you see a debit balance on the bank statement, what it means is that it's negative, right? That is a bank overdraft. For the cash book, it shows a credit balance. So an overdraft shows a credit balance in your cash book. In other words, your balance brought down will be at the credit side, right? Okay. Thank you for that answer. Okay. Let me ask another question. Okay, so if you are preparing a bank reconciliation statement and you decide to begin with your balance on the cash book, how do you adjust uncredited checks? So you are preparing a reconciliation statement, but you decided to start with the balance per the cash book. What will you do with uncredited check? Will you add or less? Adam, would you answer that? Okay. So I'm seeing Alexia saying something here. Alexia says you less. And I think that is true. If you begin with your balance per the cash book, you less on credited checks. Good. So professors, I'll put the format on the page. And this format I've given you is the one where the balance is positive on both the cash book and the balance statement. So next time we'll look at when it is an overdraft. Okay. Then maybe we'll look at how to adjust the cash book and then we start solving illustrations. Okay. So thank you very much for the time. In fact, I'm late for the yes. Yes. Deladem says, please add the video. Yes, I'll share the video later in the day. Okay. So I'll beg of you to leave for the meeting. Okay, so I wish you all the best. I'll see you when I see you. Those who have not submitted the assignment, please, I don't want to report you, so do submit. I've seen a few people submit, so I'll check on it if you haven't yet. Prof, actually, I want to believe you were able to watch the video, so can attempt the questions, right? Okay. Prof, actually, if you can respond to that, I'll be so grateful. Okay, Professor. So enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you when I see you. So Ashley has responded. Sir, would there be a third class? Adam, unfortunately, because of my meeting, I have to take your minutes. Okay, I think almost 30 minutes of your time for my children's PTA meeting. So the third class cannot. Okay, thank you very much for your understanding, professors. So I'll see you when I see you. Au revoir.